On this day, a scuba diver emerged as a local hero by rescuing a baby dolphin from a perilous situation near the sandy shores. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers, unaware of the unfolding drama behind the scenes. However, when a spectator suddenly began to scream, the urgency of the situation became apparent. Without hesitation, the diver sprang into action. In the heart of the Caribbean, nestled between the azure waves and lush greenery, resided the charming coastal town of Coral Cove. Brian, a native of this picturesque island, was a well-known figure among both locals and tourists alike. With an affable personality and a deep-rooted knowledge of the sea, he had etched a place in people's hearts as the best scuba diving guide. Every weekday, Brian followed a ritual as ingrained in him as the tides of the sea. After breakfast, as the sun began its ascent and the vibrant hues of dawn yielded to the crystal-clear daylight, Brian would pull on his scuba suit, anticipating yet another day of marine exploration. Today was no different. The tourist he was scheduled to guide wouldn't arrive for a few more hours, providing him with an opportunity for a solo dive, his most treasured moment. But today, the ocean had a surprise in store for him, one that would shatter the tranquility of his routine and change his life in ways he could never have imagined. Brian was heading toward the deeper, unexplored parts of the ocean. Out in the deep, the ocean was a different realm, a silent world punctuated only by the hauntingly beautiful song of the whales. As he descended into the water, the sounds of the world above gradually receded, replaced by the muffled lull of the underwater symphony. Just as Brian began to lose himself in the underwater spectacle, a sudden commotion broke through the placidity of the water. It was a sound that signaled urgency and distress, enough to snap him out of his ocean-induced reverie and make him pay close attention. Emerging to the surface, Brian saw a large group of tourists frantically waving and shouting from the beach. Their distress was evident in their voices. He didn't yet know what had happened, but he knew the commotion wasn't for nothing. So he sailed toward them. Upon closer observation, he saw it, a baby dolphin ensnared behind a rock formation. It was too close to the shore and had no way to escape back into deeper waters. The onlookers wanted to help, but were unsure how to proceed. Suddenly, one of the tourists recognized Brian out at sea. With a desperate sense of urgency, they started screaming, hoping to draw his attention to the grim situation at hand. Their voices carried over the waves, reaching Brian just as he resurfaced from his dive. As we know, Brian always answered the call, and after just a couple of minutes, when he got closer, he saw it too. A baby dolphin, its small body struggling against the rough rocks blocking its path to the open sea. Brian knew he had to act fast. Without hesitation, he put his boat into third gear and raced toward the scene as quickly as possible. Jumping into the shallow water, he felt a sense of urgency coupled with determination. As he slowly moved closer, the dolphin recoiled slightly. But Brian's calming demeanor eventually reassured the scared creature. The fear in its eyes slowly faded away, replaced by trust and gratitude. Brian's heart swelled as he witnessed the transformation of the animal. He held on to the dolphin, ensuring its safety while gently guiding it back to the open sea. The moment Brian's hand first brushed against the dolphin, an inexplicable bond formed between them. The connection was immediate and profound. Despite the initial panic, the rescue operation was smoother than Brian had anticipated. With gentle coaxing, the dolphin gradually began to swim away from the dangerous rocks and toward him. As the dolphin finally swam away from Brian, a loud cheer echoed from the shore, each clap, each whistle resonating with the joy of witnessing such a heroic deed. Today was indeed different, far more than Brian had ever anticipated. Among the applauding crowd stood a woman, her eyes fixed on the disappearing silhouette of the young dolphin. Her face was etched with worry, her gaze intense. Unlike the rest of the crowd, she didn't join in the cheers. Brian noticed her. Her distant gaze and furrowed brows were hard to miss in a sea of smiling faces. His curiosity piqued, and he followed her gaze back to the sea. That's when he saw it. The young dolphin, instead of disappearing into deeper waters, had turned around and was swimming back toward the shore. The crowd noticed the dolphin's return, and their cheers subsided into confused murmurs. Was the dolphin hurt? Why was it coming back? Questions buzzed in the air, but no one had the answers. Brian, intrigued and somewhat worried, decided to investigate. Without wasting a moment, he waded back into the water. As he got closer, he noticed the dolphin behaving unusually. It was creating a ruckus in the water, frantically splashing and making distress noises. His years of interacting with marine life had honed his instincts. He understood that the dolphin was trying to communicate something. It became apparent that the dolphin wanted Brian to follow it deeper into the water. With a mix of apprehension and intrigue, he decided to heed the dolphin's call. The dolphin maintained a 5-meter distance from him, periodically turning back to make sure he was following. It led him past the familiar rock formation and around a huge cliff that barricaded the vast expanse of the sea beyond. As Brian rounded the corner, what he saw made him gasp. A medium-sized fishing boat was anchored close to the shore, far from its usual spot at sea. Its fishing nets lay sprawled, touching the ocean floor. Was this what the dolphin was trying to show him? He knew that fishing boats weren't allowed this close to the shore. This was a protected zone due to the coral reefs and the diverse marine life it housed. Was a violation happening right under their noses? Diving back into the azure depths, Brian swam toward the fishing boat. The salt of the ocean stung his eyes, fueling his determination. The sight that greeted him underwater was heartbreaking. There, ensnared in the merciless net, was a variety of aquatic creatures, many of them endangered species. Among them was a mature dolphin, her eyes filled with fear. The sight of the trapped dolphin stirred a wave of realization in Brian. This was the baby dolphin's mother. The dots connected in his mind. The baby dolphin hadn't just been stuck. It had been seeking help. It had come back to Brian to lead him to its trapped mother. The boat was a transgressor, violating marine laws to fish in these protected waters. Filled with resolve, Brian acted swiftly. He took out the knife strapped to his diving suit and began cutting the net. The trapped creatures stirred, sensing their impending freedom. With the animals freed, he resurfaced for a breath and swam toward the boat. He knew exactly what to do. He pulled at the boat's wiring, ensuring that it wouldn't start. If the captain of the ship saw the police approaching, he would sail away in a hurry. But because of Brian's quick thinking, that would now be impossible. Using the same knife he had used to free the creatures, he cut all power to the illegal watercraft. He quietly slipped back into the sea, distancing himself from the boat. Once he was at a safe range, Brian reported the illegal activities to the authorities. His years of dedicated service had earned him the respect and trust of the local police. As soon as his report was received, a patrol boat raced toward the scene. Within minutes, the now immobilized fishing boat was surrounded. The calm waters around it were suddenly bustling with police, and the shocked expressions of the crew as they were arrested were unforgettable. For a brief moment, the ocean was disturbed, but this time it was for a noble cause. Justice was being served, and the waters were a little safer, all thanks to Brian. Standing on the shore, he watched the events unfold. He hadn't just saved one life that day, he had protected many and prevented harm to countless others. The marine ecosystem would thrive a bit more brightly now, thanks to the courageous actions of a man in tune with the rhythm of the sea. Brian was more than just a scuba diving guide, he was a guardian of the ocean and its creatures. He was a true hero.